Also part of the gun-grabbing activity. If you haven't heard yet, Mayor Lee Dollar of Gunterville, Alabama, has proposed an ordinance that would give the police the authority to confiscate weapons in the event of a major disaster. The mayor of the Alabama city has proposed a disaster emergency ordinance that would give police the authority to take the weapons in the event of a major disaster. She says that this ordinance would ensure a quick response in the event of a major disaster. Do you keep noticing that they keep throwing out major disaster, major disaster? They don't want you thinking about, we're coming to take your guns. And excuse me, wouldn't it actually slow down response time to get to an emergency situation if you're taking the time to stop at every legal gun owner's residence and round up their guns before you continue on? Now, get a load of this. Quote, "By no means is it our intent to disarm or seize anyone's firearms." Well, then why do it? This is in there to protect public workers and any volunteers helping should someone become unruly. And it can happen because emotions are high. That it would give an officer that authority. And it's only to protect people. We are not trying to infringe on anyone's constitutional authority. Interesting choice of words, actually. And this mayor actually hit upon something that most people don't realize, and that is the true authority to be governed is granted by the people. So the Constitution grants the authority to governments to do what needs to be done. The sovereign authority of the government still stands in the hands of the people. So when they infringe upon their rights, they are, in fact, infringing on your constitutional authority. You, the citizen, have authority over the government, not the other way around. That's something that continues to be lost. Now they have responsibility to protect the public, blah, 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 blah. There's the code word, though. Well, kind of a phrase. It's only to protect people. All liberty-selling laws are frilled up and dolled, and the makeup gets put on it, and they're sold to you in the bill of goods so that people will be safe. This is about keeping people safe. No word on how those people who have their guns taken away from them are going to protect themselves and their property from looters. Earlier this month, the National Rifle Association leaked a internal Justice Department memo in which the leading official in the administration of the occupier mused that a ban on so-called assault weapons and large ammunition magazines, coupled with a more stringent background check system, would have no impact in reducing the availability of certain firearms. Instead, the official opined that a national gun registration and compensation system would have to be put into place to eliminate the guns that the Obama administration and certain lawmakers are determined to have banned. If the occupier's administration goal is to ban certain types of firearms incrementally without making it obvious that the elimination of all Second Amendment rights is the end game, this particular memo seems pretty straightforward. It seems that is the thinking that's going on behind the scenes. In a nutshell, the tone is, well, we could actually cut the number of gun murders by simply enforcing existing gun laws. But if you guys want to ban them, here's how. And here's some quotes directly from the memo. fatalities from mass shootings, those of 4 or more victims in a particular place and time. Fatalities from mass shootings account on average for 35 fatalities a year. Policies that address the larger firearm homicide issue will have a far greater impact, even if they do not address the particular issues of mass shooting. The memo goes on to suggest that gun buybacks, magazine bans, background checks, assault weapon bans, and the development of smart guns are all really fictitious things to suggest if you're a top government official serious about cutting down on gun violence. A recent Syracuse University study backs the Justice Memo initial assertion that gun crime would not that gun crime would be cut drastically if existing gun laws were simply enforced. According to that report, since the occupier took office, the number of gun crime prosecutions in the nation has dropped significantly. By 2011, there were 40% fewer gun-related prosecutions than when they peaked in 2004 under W. Bush. The study prompted members of the House Judiciary, GOP, to band together and sign a letter criticizing the president that has made such a policy plank of gun control for his administration's poor record on gun crime. The letter was sent to the occupier and Attorney General Eric Holder. Waste of time, but they did it. Besides pointing out the overall low numbers of gun crime prosecutions, the GOP lawmakers lambasted the administration officials for failing to place high value on prosecution of paperwork violations from federally licensed firearm dealers. In 2010, there were 76,142 denials screened by the ATF's Denial Enforcement and NCIS Intelligence Branch. Of those screened, 4,732 denials were referred to field offices for investigation. However, only 62 prosecutions resulted from those actions. According to the letter, a prosecution rate this low is not indicative of a Department of Justice that takes the act of illegally attempting to acquire a firearm very seriously. The lawmakers asked Holder to provide records of judicial prosecutions for federal firearm violations over the past 11 years. In another recent open letter to the president, Columbine survivor Aaron Todd similarly criticized the administration for gun prosecution failings. In the letter, quote, "Mr. President, these are your words. And finally, Congress needs to help rather than hinder law enforcement as it does its job. We should get tougher on people who buy guns with the express purpose of turning around and selling them to criminals. And we should severely punish anybody who helps them do this." Why don't we start with Eric Holder and thoroughly investigate the Fast and Furious program? Todd also noted that it was during the initial assault weapons ban that the Columbine massacre occurred. And I'm sure most of us had heard about that letter by now. Also, there is a video showing interviews with people who had their weapons taken from them during the Hurricane Katrina. There we go. I finally said it right today. I don't know what's wrong with my tongue. It's just not wanting to work. Anyway, on the website WND, you can actually find, and I will put the website in our tagline for today's episode if you want to look it up. But they actually show footage of people having their guns taken from them, and then people talking about having their guns taken from them during the Hurricane Katrina issues. I'm just sitting here, and I watched the videos. There was 2 separate videos. They're fairly long. That's why they're broken up. But some of it seemed reasonable to me, but certainly not all of it. They actually showed an older lady who, didn't want to leave her house. She was being forced to leave, and then when she showed them her unarmed pistol, they attacked. Now, if you're a police officer, you have to react, and you have to understand as soon as you see a gun, you feel like your life's in danger. So this particular video footage was put together by the NRA. So they have an intent. They have a goal. This is propaganda. But the individual stories are still true. And the fact that police were just randomly going around and taking legally owned firearms from the owners who were not engaged in criminal activity, most of them were simply trying to preserve their weapons and keep them out of the hands of looters. And in many cases, they refused to even issue receipts for taking the weapons. So a lot of these folks have never seen their firearms again. It's just completely unfathomable that this would happen. So I'm asking you, if you do go to the site and take a look at this footage, keep in mind it's being presented in a way that's meant to skew your opinion, much the same way that the folks on the left do. But listen to what the people have to say. Hear their words and understand what they mean. Don't fall for the spin. Understand that the NRA has their agenda in this particular issue. But it's worth taking a look at, because this is definitely actions that are very un-American. Police officers are already taking guns away from the people. There's a full article on that same webpage, and it is certainly worth the read. And in the article, they also mention Mayor Leah Dollar from the Guntersville, Alabama mayorship that we already discussed, and her little plan for taking guns away from you in emergencies. Seems like during emergencies are when you're going to need guns the most. We have got to stop letting people twist the whole picture. That's only to protect people. If we can save just one life, we have an obligation. No. These are excuses to try to take guns from law-abiding citizens. Read it. See what they're saying. Don't just listen to the words. Actually look at the transcripts. Read it and stop and think about it. I'm quickly running out of time for today's episode. Part of it is my delivery. I'm off tonight, ladies and gentlemen, and I apologize. And anybody who took the time to sit here and listen for the whole episode, thank you. But I'm going to go ahead and take this opportunity to remind you, please, don't take my word for it. Please, please, don't take their word for it. Do some research, use your brain, and decide for yourself. That's tonight's show. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen. Hope to have you back on the next broadcast of Tap Into the Truth. Have a great evening.